Hello and welcome back. The LCS has hit its midweek point. I am on holiday, so excuse any audio visual issues, but it's been a hectic super week to kind of close out the halfway point of the LCS. Some very surprising finishes on both ends of the table, I think. Cough Dignitas at the bottom at 0-9.
I mean, a massive cough there.
Yeah, a massive one there. What do you think? How are you feeling? What do you think of last week's games?
Well, unfortunately, due to some travel and some holiday, we didn't get to talk last week either. And so I kind of want to talk about like 2 weeks of games if you're okay with it. I mean, for me, love seeing Flyquest just continue their dominance. With that being said, of course, this past weekend, they lose a game to TSM, which was a surprise, no doubt about it. I do think they were, in watching it and then listening to the casters, it felt like their draft was kind of erratic, right? Like they were kind of testing out some things, being a bit carefree. To be fair, though, like they also were playing a bit sloppy the week before, and so like
I feel like they're getting bored.
Yes, correct. That's what it feels like.
Their draft was really not that great.
Like against EG, they almost should have lost to EG.
They should have.
They should have lost to EG, and then they come back and actually, kind of tidy it up. But
it's an interesting thing because I actually didn't really want to talk about Flyquest because I think the loss is a bit of an aberration, and the rest of it is just they've been dominating. So, I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I don't really have much to add to it.
Cloud9, I know that you wanted to talk through the roster swap.
I mean, not just the roster swap. There's some juicy beef happening.
Let's talk about it.
Yeon in game after they won the dragon fight wrote a bit of shit, talked a bit of shit in game, saying like you're worse than our academy team. Zven took that super personally. Then when they won the game, he wouldn't shake Yeon's hand, just gave him the dirtiest look, and then told him to go back to academy, which is like brutal stuff. He came out afterwards with a bit of a PR response. I'm sure the team and Riot kind of forced him to do that. But like respect all around. I love the fact that Yeon talked a bit of shit. And I love the fact that Zven took it so personally.
But you can't talk that shit and then lose the match. Like,
well, you can. No, I don't think so. And it's boring. If you only talk shit when you win, then you're punching down.
No. Well, the problem is this Team Liquid team. Like, what in the is going on with these guys? I love trash talking. I agree. But to me, this Team Liquid team is not. They need to be a bit more focused on winning games versus trash talking. Like, being a 3-6, they're in 8th place, Nikki. They're not making playoffs.
I'm not debating that they're bad, but what I am saying is that I actually like the fact that they're trash talking because at the end of the day, it keeps the energy up. It keeps the mood. If you go in feeling like you're a terrible team and you can't play well and you can't win, that's a loser's mentality. And the fact that Yeon is like, hey, you know what, you're a better team and so on, but I am going to punch a little bit above my weight. I'm going to make this a little bit more interesting. I'm okay with it. I have no problem with it. TL is having massive issues. I think that this is also a bit of a boring topic about TL because they're sitting in 8th place. Summit has been running it down. Pyosik is unfortunately gone back to his pre-Worlds form of being a terrible player. I think Harry in mid lane is really... I don't think he's ready for the LCS. Nope. So they need to have a real look at it because 3 and 8 is not it.
Sorry, Cloud9.
Cloud9, yes, a bit of a tangent there, but Cloud9 has also made a roster swap. So Diplex is out. They're bringing Eminez in from Academy, or Challengers, I guess it's called now. Now, Eminez has been smurfing. He has been destroying everyone in Challengers. But also, to be honest, Diplex has been really bad in lane. Now, I think in his team fighting has been fine. But a lot of that, in my opinion, has been covered by the fact that the rest of the team is so well and Cloud9 is doing well. I had a look at some of his stats. He has the second lowest gold at 10, XP at 10, the lowest CSD at 10. His damage outputs aren't that much better. So just across the board, he's just really not that great. Or hasn't been performing, and he's been losing lane to like a Blaze Olive, which you shouldn't be doing as a Cloud9 mid lane.
Yeah, correct. I mean, look, the fact that the team is 7-2, covering basically, it feels like almost playing a man down, right? Is I think a testament. Like this team has the potential to really kind of, I think, challenge Flyquest coming into the back half of this, season.
Yeah.
I think this Cloud9 team, I mean, I haven't personally seen Jimenez and his performance in Challengers. I will also, caveat this by saying it is still Challengers, right? Like, he's not playing against the best players in the world.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Not to suggest that the LCS are the best players in the world, but they're a little bit better than the Challenger players. Unless you're Yeon.
No, look, I think that goes without saying, definitely. And I know preseason, we actually said this at the beginning when the rosters were announced and we did our preseason video. We talked about Cloud9 and we said it's weird that Jimenez isn't being put in. Now he has some apparently behavioral issues, should we say?
Who doesn't? I have some behavioral issues.
You definitely do. You guys should see him off camera. But the idea here is that I think he was always waiting in the wings, and the spot was his so long as he didn't burn the bridges. It just helps that his performance has been great, and Diplex hasn't really, unfortunately, made the most of it. Who's impressed you? Who's disappointed you?
I mean, can we overemphasize just how much of a disappointment Dignitas is? They're 0-9.
Oh,
they haven't won a game.
Horrendous. Like it's really...
It's embarrassing. We had them like top 4 before the season started. Like, this is a team with Armut, Santorin, and Jensen on it. Like, those 3 players alone should be able to win a match, like, against Immortals.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? It is so bad.
Made the point perfectly. With the roster they have and the names they have, we're talking about multiple champions. The LCS, LEC champions. There's no reasonable reason why they're sitting at the bottom. I never liked the Armored pickup. I think him and Santorin have been inting like there's no tomorrow. Jensen has actually been playing really well. His stats are good. His damage output, he's actually been counterpicked a lot of the time. I think he has the highest counterpick rate at like over 80%. So he's doing everything right. I think Biofrost has been good, but the Spawn, Santorin, and Armut are just playing so horrendously, and I'm shocked.
It's embarrassing.
So...
yeah. It's honestly embarrassing.
Yeah.
As for people who have impressed me, I've loved watching Dokal play for CLG. That's been a blast of a team to watch, and I see them being a game or two above 500. I think they're going to make playoffs.
I think they might make playoffs, but actually I'm pretty disappointed. I think they've been pretty mediocre. They've looked terrible in their losses, and I feel like their wins have been more lucky than good. I have one other team that I'm pretty disappointed on, is 100 Thieves.
I mean, they beat 100 Thieves.
So I was about to say this. 100 Thieves had another 0-2 week, so they're now on a 4-game losing streak. The usually arrogant Doublelift has come out and said, like, I have a lot to work on, which is an understatement. Bjergsen is continuing his trend of just like, I'm farming in lane, but whereas before he used to really dominate the lane and farm and get ahead, he seems to be missing a bit of a beat and a step and isn't as lane dominant as he used to be. So it's leaving us in a very like mediocre situation, and a 4-game losing streak is pretty bad. I think the counterpart to that is exactly also who you mentioned who beat CLG, Golden Guardians. These guys have been quietly racking up the wins, and they're now on a 5-win streak. Now, they haven't faced off against Cloud9, EG, or Flyquest, but I don't necessarily hold that against them. Are they the 4th best team? Is it them, or is it like TSM or something like that?
Right now they are scheduled. Right now they are the 4th best team.
Yeah. And so they're one that really impressed me. They're not going to win the LCS, but I really think they are a solid 4th place team. And for betting purposes, they're a great team to bet on.
River's been great. Totally. River's been great. I've really enjoyed them. I will say, though, I think, and every year it feels like this, but more so this year than any other year in the past, like, there's just like such a difference between the top 3 teams and like everybody else, right? Flyquest, Cloud9, and EG, they are just like such a class above anybody else. It's like, and then all the rest just kind of like beat up on each other, and you're seeing that in the records, right? Like,
I totally agree. I think I had such high hopes that this was going to be a competitive split between 6 teams, and instead we've had Flyquest just really pull away, and then Cloud9 and EG behind them. Funny thing is, we haven't talked about EG, and they are the second best team in the LCS at the moment.
Yep.
They beat Cloud9. Yep. They have, so even though they're tied with Cloud9, they have the record against them. It was a fairly decisive win. It'll be interesting to see how Cloud9, if they stick with Eminez moving forward, how they deal with that. But it's weird because I don't necessarily feel like EG is the second best team.
Yeah, well, I think that just points to the fact that, like, none of these teams feel great, right? Like, I think that's the exact point, is just, like, no one's really performing. Now, maybe this is, like, the throes of, early season LCS play.
It's not that early anymore, though. You say early season. We're halfway through the season.
Early on the grand scheme of the full season.
Sure, of the whole year. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Of the whole year.
Look, I think that wraps up. That kind of gives a good overview. Basically, every single team. We didn't talk about, like, Immortals, but, whatever. They're the ones that should be. Yeah, that's fine.
I will say, TSM...
Yeah,
I like that they're kind of back in contention.
They're a team that's impressed me. They have some vim, some vim and vigor.
Yes, 100%. Maple's been great.
Maple has been really great.
TSM's a team that in the past we used to see EG was a gatekeeper. It feels like TSM's like kind of that gatekeeper team, right? Like they're going to beat all the teams that are worse than them. They're going to lose to probably the better teams, but if you kind of fall asleep and if you like, that's not the right team to try and test shit out on because they will beat you.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way of putting it. Now, talking about winning and losing, I think let's jump into the matches this week.
Let's do it.
Day one, there's kind of three matches that I want to highlight. I don't know if you'll have something to really talk about, but I'm lumping them together. Flyquest versus 100 Thieves, Golden Guardians versus Cloud9, and then Dignitas versus EG. All the upsets have ridiculous odds, especially when you're looking at Dig over EG. The reality is I'm skewing towards the favorites. I think Cloud9 with Eminence is going to now have a boost. I think Flyquest, now that they've lost to TSM, are going to be a bit more focused, and I just don't believe in Dig to beat EG. The match I do really want to highlight is the TSM versus CLG, because right now they're essentially at even odds. TSM's at 1.9, CLG's at 1.8. But I think TSM is miles ahead of CLG. CLG has looked so lost in all of their games. Like I said, the wins they've gotten, I've not been impressed, and the losses, they've been destroyed. Whereas TSM across the board, wins and losses, has actually looked fairly solid and robust. So I just think getting 1.8 on TSM, I think they're the 1.9. Yeah, they're the underdog, 1.9. I think it's phenomenal. So that's the bet I would take. That's really my bet for the day, and I'd probably put a good mid-sized drop on that.
You took the words out of my mouth. I thought when you were picking Flyquest, Cloud9, and EG that was like your three favorite bets. I was like, what? The best game to bet on for this is by far TSM CLG, and I don't even know if I would really care. I mean, could Golden Guardians beat the Cloud9 team with the new roster sub? Usually, on this esteemed podcast, we believe in the honeymoon phase and the honeymoon buff. And so I think that you're going to see Cloud9 kind of destroy Golden Guardians in that match. And I think you'll see a lot of success there. I freaking love TSM over CLG on this. 1.95. TSM is just clicking, playing well. I'm honestly just surprised that this is how this game is. Like, I can't believe that's the odds. And so it feels like a very generous. Like, I would have had TSM probably in my mind at like 1.75, CLG at like 2.2 or 2.3. The fact that you're getting underdog odds for TSM, like, give me that all day.
I think that's absolutely right. I think the next day has much more interesting matches. We have a TSM versus Cloud9.
Agreed.
I agree with you. The honeymoon phase. This is a similar thing against Golden Guardians. As we said, I think Golden Guardians, TSM, very similar matches. I don't think TSM is going to beat Cloud9, but at 3.2 odds versus a 1.3. Look, if Cloud9, maybe they honeymoon phase, they try something a bit unusual with Eminez, it doesn't pay off. TSM has shown that they can beat Flyquest if they take a bad draft. There's no reason why they can't beat Cloud9. So, you know what? 3.2 odds are pretty decent. They're a solid team.
Yep.
You can't overlook them.
Said differently, we were talking with some people in Discord and leading up to the Super Week last week, and I saw the TSM Golden Guardian odds, and I thought it was such good value on TSM that I was ready to place a massive wager. And then Robert talked to me off the ledge. He said, actually, the data has been really strongly supporting Golden Guardians. Next thing you know, Golden Guardians beats TSM. So with that in mind, these odds seem to be accurate, right? Like Golden Guardians at 2.5 versus TSM at 3.24. Like, it kind of makes sense. There's a part of me, though, that wants to believe that those two teams are more evenly matched than otherwise. And so you're getting an additional 0.74 in value between the matches. Look, I don't think Cloud9 is losing to either of these teams, but if you're going to bet one of them, like, I feel like TSM's just the better bet there.
Look, these are risky bets, but this is where you've got to watch live, you got to bet live, because depending on the draft, there's a huge opportunity there to kind of get some outsized odds or boost the odds even more and take advantage of a mispriced matchup. Look, there's two matches I want to talk about. I think I want to save the TL 100 Thieves for last, because I think that's a more interesting one.
Okay.
I just want to highlight, I am so low on CLG. I know they got a win last week.
You're so low. You hate them.
I know they beat 100 Thieves, but prior to that, it's been rough for them. I do think that Immortals 2.7, maybe there's something there. Again, it's a draft thing. I'm not gonna, if they draft stupidly, you can't take this bet. This is a problem with pre-betting on bad teams, but good draft on a bad team against a bad draft on a mediocre team, that wins all day. So look, there's some big odds there for that potential upset.
Immortals beat CLG the last time they played, as we continuously reference the great philosopher Plato or Nostradamus, Pluto the dog. Yeah, Pluto the dog. It's hard to beat the same team twice, especially when you're a shitty team. It's really hard to beat the same team twice. And again, I just think Docklo's been playing out of his mind. To me, look, at 1.41, I'm not betting on CLG. I have nowhere close to that much faith in them. You will not see me put a single dollar on this, but I do think, like, I'm not putting any money on Immortals either. Like, I just don't think the value's there, and I think that Immortals is pretty shitty. The game that I actually want to put some money on is the Golden Guardians Evil Geniuses. That actually surprised me you didn't bring that one up. Look, this Golden Guardian, this Evil Genius team is a team that has been good. They haven't been, like, exceptional, right? I mean, like, they've only gotten 2 losses. Obviously, one of them is with Flyquest. But, like, it seems like this is a Evil Geniuses team that's, like, not quite clicking the same way they were last year when they were, like, world beaters, right? And so for this Golden Guardians team, who's clearly playing really well and is really on the upslope, like, you're getting 2.59, almost 2.6 odds against an Evil Genius team that, again, they're good. But to me, this is such a awesome opportunity to really kind of, like, lean in and make some money here. And so
you've actually made a great argument there. You're right. I didn't have it down, but now in hindsight, I even mentioned this, I don't feel like EG has been really solid in their wins.
Totally.
So that's totally fine. The one I have no idea where to place it is the TL 100 Thieves matchup, because essentially we have 100 Thieves is on a 4-game losing streak right now. So there's a Team Liquid team that has been going 1-1 and has been facing off against some decent teams. You know, if you look back, it's like they lost to Cloud9, then they lost to EG this past week. So it's like, okay, it skews their schedule was fairly hard at the tail end, and maybe they're figuring things out. But it's so hard here. I think I'm leaning towards 100 Thieves. They're the underdog at 1.9, TL's at 1.8. This is a really tricky one. You gotta
be more specific. It's 1.97, which is significantly better odds than 1.9. To me, this is a no-brainer again, kind of the last week. And maybe I'm just always looking for the better odds, and so, you know, maybe I have some bias in this. But, like, in the same way that I'm absolutely taking TSM at 1.95. I'm absolutely taking 100 Thieves at 1.97. They're just the better team. Like, at the end of the day, this is just a better quality team. And this Team Liquid team, they are just all over the map. They're not playing well. I haven't seen anything that's really made me inspired to believe in them. So the fact that there's still somehow a favorite is just crazy to me. Don't forget, on November 9th, 100 Thieves plays Liquid, and 100 Thieves smashes them. That's actually the last game that they won, was against Team Liquid.
Did you just say November 9th?
Yeah, Thursday, November 9th. February 9th. Sorry. I don't know how I even got to November from that. February 9th, my apologies. They out-killed them 22-8. They obviously the towers and inhibitors, but like they had 5 dragons to 0. They had 1 Baron. Like this team completely outclassed.
Okay, well that's good to know. Yeah, that does make me more confident. I still don't know if I'll pre-bet it.
And they're still
and
they're still the underdog. Yeah. They're when you have this data, like get out of here. Pluto has something to argue with.
There we go. Though. All right, guys. I think that's enough from us. So we're going to get out of here. If you enjoyed the episode, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Please let us know in the comments whether you agree or disagree. We'd love to get your thoughts on, do you think EG is legitimately a second best team? And what do you think about this Cloud9 roster swap? How do you think that's going to impact it? You can get the links to our socials in the description below. There's a link to our Discord. It's a great place talking about a lot of the leagues, LCK, LPL, and some very data analytical minds there, so it's a fun little place to chat if you're into that. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. That's basically it from me. Anything else, Mr. B&B?
I mean, if you like this episode, wait till we talk about the LEC.
Oh, that's gonna be great.
My flaming hot takes against fucking BDS, SK coming out of nowhere.
Yeah,
coming out of fucking nowhere. We kind of had it though, to be honest. But like, did we have them beating Vitality? No. Absolutely not. And then we got a nice little matchup, Koi versus G2. I'm looking forward to that as well.
It's going to be great. Can't wait for it. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you next week. And tune into the LEC episode coming out in a couple of days. Bye, everyone.
Toodaloo.